Well, hello everybody and happy September. Can you believe it's here already? Welcome to Blick Art Materials Live. My name is Julie and I'm going to be your host this evening for Transparent Paintings. Well, before we get started on that, just want to give a shout out to all of my friends out there, my creative family, the creative community that's out there. What are you guys doing this week? I know every week we kind of ask you guys that, but hey, do me a favor. Can you be specific with that tonight? I mean, I want to know what you're doing. Love to hear what you're doing, but if you just say watercolors, I'd like to know more. I am a materials girl living in an art materials world here at Blick, and I want to know, what watercolors are you using? What brushes are you using? What are you painting? What is it exactly that you're doing? So tell us what you're doing. Of course, you've got to like and follow us on Facebook. And you know what we're going to do for you? We're going to put you in that drawing and we're going to give away a $100 e-gift card tonight. So let us know what you're doing, specifically with what. Let us know what you're doing, like us and follow us, and then once we get through this whole demonstration, I'll let you know who our winner tonight is. Okay, well, Corrine is going to be my co-pilot tonight. She's here in the room with me. My demo tonight is a little bit on the different side. It's something that you probably haven't seen a whole lot of before, so I'm going to guess that you might have some questions for me. If so, fire them off. Corrine's going to let me know what it is that you're asking, and I will do my absolute best to answer them for you. Because how many of you actually do transparent paintings? Something like them, probably. We've got all this artwork on our walls, and why not put them in the window? Our windows need artwork too, right? We're going to make these transparent so that when the light shines through them, they're just going to be gorgeous. All right, so here's the thing that you might want to have that mind-blowing emoji ready for. These do not have a painting surface. Nope, it's all just paint. So let me start tonight. First of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about a fluid acrylic. A lot of you probably already have some fluid acrylics. You're using them with paint pouring perhaps. You might have Vallejos, or you might have Golden has a fluid acrylic, and then they have an extra fluid acrylic called a flow acrylic. Tonight I'm going to be using our Utrecht fluid artist acrylics. Now, what is a fluid acrylic? Really, it's the same as an acrylic in a tube. It just has more of a flow to it. It has a softer body to it. Very similar to a student grade acrylic where you'll notice that it's a little bit easier to just move around. You really don't get the palette knife peaks that you would with a student acrylic. You wouldn't with a fluid acrylic either. The other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is light fastness, because if we're going to make artwork to put up in our windows, I'll just bring something over here to have you look at. We've got these beautiful bright colors going on here, and we don't want them to end up fading, so we want to use a paint that's light fast. On our Utrecht fluid acrylics, if you're looking for these online, you will need to look underneath product description to see, but if you're in the store, you'll see a little tiny fine print on there that says light fastness 1. A 1 is considered an excellent light fast paint. Sometimes you'll see a 2. Doesn't mean that it's going to fade away to nothing very quickly, but I try to stay clear of a 2. If it's not excellent light fastness, the minute you go putting something like this up in the window, UV rays are going to start to get to it, and it will start to get a little less colorful, and I want to keep the color. So I use as most light fast that I can find. The other thing is transparency. I can wave my hand underneath here and you can see how transparent that is. So you know when that goes in the window, the light's going to come right through there. Now this is a little bit more of a mystery. Some brands of fluid acrylics would put right on there whether or not it's a transparent, an opaque, semi-transparent, semi-opaque. On our Utrecht fluid acrylics, we say that in the product description. Sometimes we come out and say, like, for instance, I have a transparent red iron oxide, so I know that that's going to be very transparent. But you might need to actually read the bottle to find out in the fine print whether or not that's a transparent paint. More transparency, of course, is going to mean that more light gets through it. All right, well, I'm going to start off by showing you how I make this with no surface whatsoever, how it's just paint. So, not talking about surface, but the surface that I created on. This, my friends, is just a sheet protector. These are just the things that you go to the big box store or the office supply store and you can get in a big bulk package of 50 or more of them, just a plain old sheet protector. And one of the things that I found out is sheet protectors are easy to peel acrylic paint off. So have you ever had paint in your palette and you love to peel it out off the palette? You're going to love this project if that's the case. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this edge off. And you can also just kind of rip it open like this to make it lie flat. And I'll just use one side of it at a time. So I'll go ahead and cut that off. Now I'm going to use a frame. You don't have to have a frame. You could actually just start painting on top of this. But I find that these macrame hoops are awesome to actually have a nice frame. And so when your artwork and your painting is done, it's ready to just go right up in the window. You can put a hanger on it and it's super easy to just put right up there. What I'm doing is I'm lining the outside edge with a little bit of tape. So this way, none of the paint that I stick inside there is going to squeeze out. I had some pieces on the edge of the table. So I'll show you how we'll just go around. Doesn't have to be a super tight seal, just enough to surround it. And now I'm going to create a clear acrylic surface to start out with. I have Acrylic Polymer Gloss Medium. Acrylic is a student grade acrylic, so what I've found is that you can get quite a bit of this for your money because it is a student grade, yet it dries super clear. You can see it looks white when it first squeezes out. And I'm just going to spread this out in the midst of this ring. Do I have any questions yet, Corinne? Do we have any comments from people about specific materials that they're falling in love with and that they're using this week? Anything for us?
Well, Chris is taking a watercolor class via Zoom with some friends in California.
I love that. Chris said he's taking a Zoom watercolor class with some friends in California. Could you ever dream that we could do things like this, folks? That you could get together with people, first of all, across the country and take a class together? I love that. Totally love it. Well, good job, Chris. All right, so what I've done is I've taken polymer gloss medium and I've just kind of made sure that I had good contact with the ring all the way around. And I like to have a little bit of texture and brush strokes with mine. In fact, I might even use a smaller brush to get more texture. If you like to have a super flat surface, you guys might have some pouring medium already that you use for your paint pours. You could just squeeze that in there and use that as well. Just any kind of a clear gloss medium works just great. And I do recommend that you put it on a piece of cardboard because it's easy to move aside and dry. It's going to probably take 24 hours for all of this medium to dry. I put it right in front of a fan. That makes it dry a lot faster. And we'll just set this one aside for now. Give me a second. I want to put it someplace where I'm not going to drop it. When it's dry, it's going to look something like this. So I still have this piece here, and I have it on a sheet protector. I reuse my sheet protectors over and over again. And then I'm just going to need to peel off the paint. And you can do a couple of things with this. You can either start painting right on it, or you can start building it up in layers. Okay, so there we can see the whole transparency, and we'll bring off all the tape. All right, I'm going to set that piece aside here for a minute. And I'm going to bring in my big guy over here. So I decided to do a really big ring so that I could really show you guys some of the texture and things that's going on. So in this case, when I put out my polymer gloss medium, I added a little color to it. So I've started out with color, and this is ready to go. There again, I'm going to start peeling this and releasing this one. You can see a little bit of cloudiness still in here. Just a couple of spots, and maybe that's a little bit too detailed to be seen on this camera. But that hasn't quite dry yet. I see a streak right here. It hasn't quite been dried yet, so I could give it a little bit more time, but I just wanted to show it to you here tonight, so I will come back to that later. And this was a little bit too big for sheet protectors, so I had to take a sheet protector and piecemeal two of them together. How's everybody, Corinne?
Good. Vibra would like to know if you can use resin instead of medium so there's more texture.
Vibra would like to know if you could use resin instead of medium because there'll be more texture. There's a couple of things with resin. I mean, yes, you definitely could use resin. Resin, to me, is actually a little bit more fragile. I have a couple of these pieces that I dropped on the floor, and I had sealed them over with a varnish so that I have a little crease right here where it's sticking. The varnish actually made it crack, and resin is a little bit, when it's thin, it could be a little bit more fragile to you. Acrylic medium itself is flexible. In fact, it always feels a little bit sticky, to tell you the truth. And that's a good thing because it has a little bit of give. And it's a little less likely to break should these things happen to drop out of the window or, get something against them. So yes, if you're looking for texture, first of all, you can get a lot of texture with an acrylic medium. As you can kind of see in here, I was able to achieve quite a bit of texture. Gel medium is another option. If you want to get a lot of texture, gel medium can give you even greater texture than what I've achieved here. So there's an option as well, and it does dry clear. It just takes maybe a little bit longer time. So I could do a couple of things. I could look at this and I could say, hey, that's kind of cool. I like it. Let's leave it as is, and go ahead and put that up in my window. But to me, it looks like it could be pushed a little bit further. It was fun to create these textures as I added paint to it. I could come back in now, and I've put a little bit of my Utrecht fluid medium or fluid acrylic into a tray here. Now I could come back in and I could start perhaps adding some details around some of these pieces. Let's just say, hey, I think that kind of looks like a leaf. So I could actually turn around and paint that into a little bit of a leaf shape, or just darken some of my colors if I want to. Let's see, here's a nice, oh, that purple is very strong. All right, so in this way I'm kind of glazing. So I'm intensifying some of my colors here. And you can see that especially if I hold it up like this. You can see my brush strokes intensifying, and I can get areas of darkness and areas of light. Here's a cool thing, folks. This is two-sided. So I can paint a little bit on this side and then come around and actually paint a little bit on this side. And this way you really get layers and layers of colors glazing up like that. So I could work on this thing for a number of hours, to tell you the truth, just going back and forth between sides. Let me show you one, shall I? I want to bring one over here that's finished. Okay, so on this one, you can see, first of all, I've used some very transparent colors. So my piece is very transparent, and I added colors a little bit at a time, you know, building up just a little bit darker here, a little bit of a mixture of colors over here. On top of the leaf, I added a little bit of veining. I darkened up this beautiful phthalo blue. You know, I want to mention that in the materials list, all of the colors that I listed in there, I was trying to save you a little bit of work, and I listed all transparent colors. So anything you find on the materials list, when you click through on the description of this project, they're going to be great for this technique that I'm showing you tonight. And if you don't, it's a little hard to see. Sometimes you can see when I put it down on the table, it's a little darker, no lights getting through it. So while you're painting on this surface, you can, I kind of make myself a little bit of an easel by propping it up with something like that. That lets a little light underneath there, and I can kind of see a little bit more what's going on. Or if you have the means of getting a light pad, I highly recommend. That's really helpful to have a light pad and to be able to see exactly what it is you're doing while you're painting on it. Or you could just go over to the window and put it up in the window, tape it up there temporarily, and work right on the window to be able to see what your paint's doing. All right, so I'm going to just put that aside for a moment, and I want to bring out this thing again because I want to show you a really cool way tonight to incorporate this with something called an acrylic skin. Do we have anybody out there that is familiar with what an acrylic skin is? Give us a thumbs up if you do, if you've heard that term before. People use it a lot in paintings. You can use dried up pieces of acrylic paint and bring them into your paintings to add a little bit of texture, just some dimension to it. I started by peeling dried paint out of my palette because I'm one of those people that just loves to pick and peel at things. And then I saw a book where they talked about something called an acrylic skin. And this just really got my mind wondering here. An acrylic skin is basically when you take acrylic paint and purposefully put it out on a surface that you know it's going to peel off of. And then you have this lovely transparent film with colors on it that you can overlay on a page, overlay onto a painting, or in my case, I'm going to cut this and use it in my painting. Let me just move this aside. Now this has quite a bit of texture to it. A couple other skins that I've made here with different colors. Let me just set that aside. If you have your sheet protector, and once again another piece of cardboard, or I've got scrap mat board, you can, I like to tape it down a little bit first just to keep it from sliding off there onto the floor. I do things like that. And a little bit of polymer gloss medium. Now I'm going to spread this apart like so. While I'm doing that, let me just remind you guys that we are giving away a $100 e-gift card to Blick tonight. And all you have to do is like and follow us on Facebook. Then we would like to know how you've been creative this week. And I am asking for specifics. Don't just say, hey, I've been doing some drawing this week. What have you been using to draw? Colored pencils? Charcoal? What have you been using? Tell us what's going on in your house, what you've got, what you love, what your materials are. All right, now I'm going to take just a little bit of this ultramarine blue, and I mean just a little bit, and I'm going to swirl it through. Not mixing completely. I want to have some variance in there. Some places are dark, some places are light. Now I'm going to take just a drop of dioxazine purple. That was a little bit more than I want, because if you're familiar with dioxazine, you know it is strong. So I'm just going to leave kind of a dark area of that here and just mix a little of that in with my blue, like so. All right, once again, set that over out of the way in front of a fan perhaps, and in a few hours you'll have something that looks a little bit more like this. There we go. There's a dried acrylic skin. And you can peel it off. You can cut a little bit at a time, which I kind of recommend to do because it can get folded up in on itself. But let's just say, coming back to my large piece here, I could cut out the shape of a flower. These kind of remind me of petals. And now I'm just going to position that over the top here. So what I'm creating now is more layers of paint on top. You'll see color mixing that's going on behind this too. But I've also got this hard edge here, which you're going to read that more as the edge of a flower than perhaps something that's softer and mixed in here. Okay. To further describe how that is happening, I think I need to show you some of my finished examples. So let me just set that aside right there. And let's bring in, first of all, a little one right here that's in progress. Okay, so see how I have cut a few of the skin pieces out here, arranged them into flower petal-like places, and now I've started to do actually a little painting to fill the area. And I could continue to keep going and building this up and building different colors, and I will get something along the lines of this piece right here. See, We've got blues and purples going on here. We've got oranges and reds that have built up flowers there. Might be even a little easier to look on that side and see. We've got greens that have been cut into the shapes of leaves here. And then just a fine little brush to describe the inside of those tulips there, and perhaps just a little bit of darkening on the skin with a little brushwork. And there you have it. That looks absolutely beautiful when it's hung up in the window. Another piece I'd like to show you is this one right here. Let me put it down here and now hold it up a little bit so you can see a little bit more light through it, where the petal pieces have been cut here and overlapped and form this flower shape. And then the background was just painted in with a little bit here of more of the blue and the purple. You'll notice something a little bit different about this one too. The fact that it has a frame around it instead of just using the macrame hoop, which is an option. I built just a little frame with some little pieces of basswood here. You can see that a little bit more on this piece right here. There's a natural look to it. How are things coming over there, Corinne? Do we have any more questions about what I'm doing here?
Well,
Materials?
Yeah, Madeline would like to know if you can use non-transparent acrylic paint.
All right, Madeline would like to know if we could use non-transparent acrylic paint. My thoughts, Madeline, are going towards transparency because I love the way that these things look when they're backlit. And so I put them up in the window or someplace where they can hang and a little bit of light can get back behind them. So my goal is transparency so that it can be backlit. However, that might not be your objective. You might not really want to put it in the window. You might just want to have this glossy painting that you've done without a surface, and that's cool. You know, that could be really interesting. So you can use non-transparent paint. Let me just show you something real fast here. Okay, this little piece right here, I was almost like directly copying a Frank Lloyd Wright piece, trying to at least here by creating some grape-like pieces here. It is more translucent. It still looks beautiful in a window, but you know, like in stained glass windows sometimes, especially when they're trying to get across a scene, it is very translucent. It's not as transparent as some glass. What I did is I put just a very light coat of white paint. So that immediately brightens my colors up a little bit, makes them a little more vivid when you look at it without light. I can still see a beautiful color when the light comes through it, but it does kind of help a little bit. A little heavier than that, I would have totally lost the effect. But I hope that answers the question about the opacity of paints there too. Hey, if you haven't done it yet and you're just joining us, we need to have you like and follow us on Facebook and let us know how you've been staying creative. Let us know exactly what materials you've been using to stay creative. And if you haven't had time this week, if you've had a crazy busy week and the only painting that you've got done or drawing is in your head because you want to have time to do it, but you haven't gotten around to it, let us know. You know, I'm right there with you. You're preaching to the choir here. We have those weeks. So that's how you can get entered for our $100 e-gift card, which we're going to be drawing here in just a few minutes. So better get entered. Any other questions about materials that I'm using? I know it's a really a really different project tonight. So go ahead and ask me anything. And if you're just getting in, you might not quite understand what's going on. Corrine?
Susan would like to know, do you use a spray varnish at the end, or is anything needed?
Okay, this is a really good question that I want to answer for you, Susan, about using a spray varnish at the end, because I did some experimenting. Acrylic in itself, especially because I am using a light fast acrylic, it doesn't need to be sealed. There's really not a reason to put a varnish at the end. Sometimes you end up with a lot of texture over the top, and you want to kind of even things out a little bit. I would use a pouring medium as a varnish, because varnishes tend to dry very, very, very hard. And when it's on a surface, a painting is on a surface, we want it to dry really, really hard. When it's on one of these little sun catchers, if it's super hard and it accidentally drops, it can crack, honestly. I like them a little bit more flexible. You can kind of almost see how I'm pushing this out and pushing it in a little bit. If I wanted to varnish it, meaning have a coating at the end, I would use pouring medium. It's going to stay flexible. There are going to be temperature changes in a window that will cause it sometimes to really kind of get warmed up and flexible and soft, kind of like the lights are doing here on this piece. And then there's going to be cold days, and a varnish or something hard, whether it's a spray or a brush-on varnish, that can actually interfere with the temperature changes and the surface, and it could cause cracks, or it could pull away from the ring. So you don't need to. That's it. Any other questions about the techniques that I've done up to this point, or the products that I've used?
Well, Diane would like to know, when you are applying the layers, do you have to wait for it to dry before you put more paint on top?
And that's a good question. We've got a question about whether you have to let it dry if you're doing layers. I'm going to go back to this painted piece that I started working on a few more layers with and adding a little bit more. Do you have to let it dry before you paint over the top of it again? No, not necessarily. You can just, if this piece is wet over here, come over and start working in this area a little bit. There's always something that can be done while something is drying. When you're layering pieces, like I started to layer skins on this piece right here, these are dry, so there's no need to let them dry in between. However, let's just say that I've gone on and on and on here, and I've created a design here, making flowers and skins and layering. Ended up with this piece. At the very end, what I'm going to do, once I'm done with everything, is to make sure that those pieces don't come off again. And to do that, I'm going to just take a little bit more of this gloss medium. I squeezed out way too much. I don't need that much at all. But I'm just going to seal it like this, and I'm going to make sure then that those pieces don't come off again, that nothing catches on the end and peels them off. Then you need to wait for it to dry. Any other questions about this or comments? I want to show you something that you could do with this process with kids. Okay, I know you guys have got holiday season coming up here, and whatever groups you are in, sometimes you have to come up with a holiday craft, right? And this will be something that you can do that's really fun in a family setting or as a make and take. So if you were to take your sheet protectors, and place your ring as I showed you before. And I would put it on a paper plate because then it's easy to just take with you. We could fill this ring up with polymer gloss medium and then come along and sprinkle glitter and sequins and snowflake sequins and beads and make this really glittery holiday ornament that's super fun to make. And they can either hang it on a tree or hang it in the window, and it's just going to be very sparkly and shiny and a lot of fun. To hang it, let's just say we're finished and we're ready to get going to hang it. Of course, you could take a picture, you could take a needle or something and put a string through. That's what I've done with a number of these pieces here. I just put a string through it. But a really neat and tidy way to finish this off and to make a hanger is to take a large jump ring. And these are found in the jewelry making section. And you usually get a package of a number of them. But let's just say I have a large gold jump ring here. And then a little pair of jewelry pliers. I can take and open that up, put it around this ring, and close it back up again. Kind of poking it into the acrylic just a little bit. Okay, and then we can add a chain or a ribbon or something, and it just makes a real easy way to hang it. Create a hanger. The surface can be a drawing surface. You can come back in with permanent markers, do some details with your paint markers as well. Another ornament type here has a little snowflake that's been put on there with some puffy paint. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover about this project. Send me your last minute questions and send your, put your name in for the drawing simply by liking and following us on Facebook, and also telling us what you've been using this week as far as creative materials are going. We know that you've been busy, and whether your painting has just been done inside of your head this week and your drawing and your creative things, or you've actually had the time to get through, we want to know what you've been doing, and specifically what materials are you using. All right, Corinne, what's... Oh, wait, wow, that was fast. Oh, great, we've got a winner, you guys. We did the drawing and we do have a winner. Who is it? I'm so excited.
Edie Evans Bisbee.
Edie Evans Bisbee is our winner tonight. Oh, Edie, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've got a list already started with the things that you want to use that gift card on. Congratulations. And for the rest of you, you've got another chance to win. All you got to do is come back on Thursday, 4 o'clock. We'll have another Blick Live for you. Thank you for joining me here tonight, and I hope you will try painting with acrylic skins, making transparent paintings. We've got gift season coming up here. It's a good idea, and if nothing else, it's a really fun thing to make with the kids and with the grandkids and with the students. Have fun. Thanks for joining us.